Hi, I'm Russell Beach, and this is a video on how to DIY, do it yourself, your own centre of excellence for successful business intelligence. First of all, let's think about what is a centre of excellence. Well, it's often abbreviated to COE for short, and sometimes Centre of Excellence is referred to as a Business Intelligence Competency Centre, BICC, a term coined, I think, by Gartner some years ago. The Centre of Excellence delivers business intelligence services, and to do that, the Centre of Excellence consists of a team of business intelligence specialists. It exists to serve information consumers. Just think about that for a moment. Information consumers are the people within the business, within the organisation, that use the data to make decisions. They're consumers of that information. And the Centre of Excellence follows a process and governance for a single version of the truth. You're probably familiar already with the single version of the truth. It's a very popular term within BI, business intelligence, and it's the case of having a data warehouse that maintains the version of the truth, so you no longer have business meetings where one person presents results A on the data and another person presents results B on the data, which conflict when apparently both business users have been using similar data sources based on similar data sets, but there's no single version of the truth. So a BI Centre of Excellence should protect that single version of the truth and advocate it. Now, I became very interested in Centre of Excellence because I've been involved in many BI projects, and I've observed many companies with BI programs and BI projects, and almost for sure, when you have a properly established Centre of Excellence, it may not be called that, it may be called something else, but this can really help your programs and projects work well. So I've put together this presentation to give you some hints and tips on how you could do it. But first of all, let's have a quick word on big data. Yep, big data's here now. It's powerful and it's exciting. While you are thinking about establishing your Centre of Excellence, you might also want to have in your mind thoughts around predictive algorithms and models, data science, and how to incorporate big data also into your COE framework going forwards, because one thing's for sure, big data will need more governance, not less. And so it's very encouraging to see companies like Talend with their data quality and Pentaho with the data integration products taking things like data quality and governance seriously. And in the future, as almost certainly governance legislation around big data tightens, you have a framework in place to help you accommodate the required governance. Now, creating a COE is really a mindset. You need to approach the whole thing as you should your whole BI program, your whole BI initiative, thinking about these things and not missing out any of them. They're often missed. BI strategy, BI roadmap, BI services, BI architecture, the Centre of Excellence framework, BI processes and BI governance. And in the rest of the slides, I'm going to comment on those 7 things, and I'm going to give you a few examples and some ideas. But remember, all organisations are different, and all I'm trying to do in this presentation is to give you some ideas, some things to chew over. The way that you use these ideas and develop them and customise them will be dependent on your organisation. Let's think about business intelligence strategy and a COE. If you want your BI to be successful, make clear plans, define clear processes that will help you fulfill those plans, and clear governance that ensures that the process is followed to success. And having done all those, give very clear communications to everyone in the organisation that touches or overlaps the data that you want to use. Now, it's very important to understand that the BI strategy is a component of your overall corporate strategy. When the senior executives say this is the direction for the business, they set financial objectives, there'll be an IT strategy, and the BI strategy should be a strategic tool to help you achieve the corporate strategy. So for instance, the senior executives want to enter new products into new markets. Then the data available and used in the BI initiative should completely facilitate and help the executives achieve that goal of their corporate strategy. The COE is one way to ensure successful delivery of the BI strategy. And so the COE also ensures the fulfillment of the BI vision, because what you should do is outline your vision within your strategy. This is where we are, this is where we want to go, this is how we're going to get there. You almost certainly have operational IT models in place. So the BI strategy should not contradict your IT strategy, it should work in harmony with it. And COE should ensure the governance of BI. Keep the strategy on track. KTSOT. Keep the strategy on track. Some organisations have a governance department, so you may use that, working closely with the BI COE. The COE can also set benchmark standards, best practice for analytics, data integration, data cleansing, data modelling, enterprise reporting, so on and so forth. And the COE should ensure formalised documented procedures so that everyone can understand what is the correct process to follow, document them, put the documents under change control, communicate those documents, give all users access. If you successfully lay the foundation of your COE, it can be fundamental to your expansion plans, meaning you can roll out BI successfully across different countries. And your COE can also become the stable platform through which to trial, pilot and roll out new BI tools, rather than individual departments buying departmentally, not having the training, and a kind of patchwork quilt of reporting tools arising within the organisation. So here's some questions to think about. What is your BI roadmap? Can be very high level. Have you written that down? Because the COE will be part of that roadmap. Who's going to sponsor your COE? You need senior people to be behind the COE, to think about things like funding and strategy. And very critical, because it drives a lot of the other thinking, is what services, what BI services will your COE offer? Understanding those services and what you want to achieve through those services will allow you to use a BI solution architect to put solution architecture in place. This is very, very important if you're serious about having BI success. With the solution architecture, you can define your COE framework. This will be the framework which will allow you to successfully deliver your BI services. Now you know the framework, the solution architecture, and the services, so think about the org structure. What people do you need in your COE to deliver those services successfully to the information consumers within the business? If you don't have them already, will you retrain existing staff, or will you recruit new people? How will you do that? And all these projects and change requests, data mining, new initiatives, how will they be funded? There are different models. What will your BI processes look like? You need to define them. For instance, there should be an approval process for projects, and there should be a development process. Who's responsible for defining the COE governance and then implementing its compliance? This could happen within the COE or outside. What is your communication plan? As you'll see later, the communication plan is extremely important if you want to truly realise successful BI. And what part will offshore development play in your BI initiative? What will be their relationship, if any, with the COE? Of course, these questions are not exhaustive at all, but they give a flavour of the sort of things that you should be thinking about. Let's have a quick look at an idea of a BI roadmap. Here's a very simple one. This component of the overall BI roadmap just focuses on setting up the COE. Week 1 to week 8 running along the bottom. I'm not implying that it will take you 3 weeks or 8 weeks or 3 months. It depends exactly on what you're doing. It's just there as an example. But the principles are good. Start with a listening project. Go talk to the business. Find out what will work within your business. Find out what analytics and what data is required. Having completed the listening project, then go on to think about structure, process, governance. That will all determine how you design exactly the nature of your COE framework. Once you've thought that through, go into setup phase. Get everything and everyone in place and orient the team. This is extremely important. Orient the team to understand the processes and the culture, the objectives, and the quality standards required. Then go to pre-launch phase. In pre-launch, your communication plan is critical. Too many times there's a BI initiative and the business users don't really understand what's going on. Make an internal marketing plan so that you big up and make loud and clear. The centre of excellence is coming, guys. Orient your business users, educate them, and help them to adopt the new COE system and the BI system. As I said, if you're creating a roadmap, you need to get influential sponsors behind your COE. Let's just think about this for a moment. It's just a little template. Sponsors, stakeholders and contributors. It's easy to make this table. List all the components down the left hand side in the first column. Component is strategy. Okay, who will own that strategy? Who will contribute to it? How are we going to take new requests into the COE? Ticketing. Okay, who owns the ticketing? Is it IT or is this specific for BI? Who's going to contribute to that ticketing process and own that process? What about the communication strategy? What about the key user community? What about your process? So on and so forth. It can be a useful little template to fill in. Roadmap, sponsors, strategy, solution architecture. So do yourself a favour, get BI solution architecture. Okay, now this solution architecture should be driven through your BI COE vision. It should be guided by and driven by your BI strategy, and create a mission statement and clear objectives. All these things constitute guiding principles, and now the architecture should fall out of these. Critically, that BI solution architecture must support the delivery of the BI services that you've previously defined will be supplied by the Centre of Excellence. Remember, you define those services to reach your BI objectives, to achieve your BI strategy, to feed in and help facilitate part of the corporate strategy. It's very important here that you don't lose your way in the mist and fog. The BI solution architecture can cover technologies, infrastructure. It can allude to funding models. Certainly people will want to know how much will it cost. The architecture should be written in such a way that it prevents BI silos. So what are BI silos? Well, business intelligence, of course, takes data from diverse source systems. All organisations have them. We all capture data in many, many ways. BI seeks to integrate those sources into a single version of the truth, as we said, and then to deliver them through into analytics, dashboards, and so on and so forth, models, engines, to the end user community. I think it's a mistake to take your source system data, to join it up in a data warehouse, and then create a series of standalone data marts that aren't integrated, that don't join together, that don't hold conform dimensions, or a dimensional bus matrix as defined by Kimball. It's a mistake to have numerous technologies that can't speak to each other. So you started with data silos and you ended up with them and spent several million in the process. Get your BI solution architecture in place, make a clear plan as to how you will avoid BI silos, delivering powerful joined up data to the business, and show how this solution can be scaled, your expansion plans. Okay, you know your strategy, you know your sponsors, you know your roadmap, you have your BI solution architecture. Now define your framework. Of course, this is just one example of a framework, and you can spend quite a lot of time studying all these little boxes, rewriting and renaming them, moving them around. And that's what you should do. Get a piece of paper and start drawing this up. You see that my Centre of Excellence down at the bottom in the box there is divided into three parts. Within this example, and it is only an example, you have a management function, a frontline function, so these are people that can take the initial projects and requests, maybe do an impact analysis, maybe reject the project, maybe action the project, so on and so forth, and then what I've called here a core centre of excellence for BI. These are actually doing a lot of the build or design. So they may do ad hoc analysis, they may undertake the extraction of large data sets for data mining, create algorithms, they may define end-to-end BI solutions, do requirements gathering, create schemas, models, analytics, so on and so forth. You define what's in that box according to the services. The services are defined according to what you need to deliver to the business users. Now you'll see that we've got some other things. SharePoint is there with a question mark as a ticketing suggestion for bringing requests, change requests, etc. into the COE. I put SharePoint there because it's just a very popular thing. You could use all sorts of types of ticketing solutions, templates, so on and so forth. Also, you'll see 3 boxes at the top, and again there are examples. In the box I'm saying departmental director in this example is really in charge, oversees big things like new projects and major changes, and may speak directly to the COE management regarding those things. But also there's a relationship between a business analyst. Again, this is a departmental one, meaning in this case there's one business analyst for every business process or department within your business, and the business users are feeding into the business analyst. And the reason for that relationship is that if you've got 1,000 or 2,000 business users, you don't want all those business users raising tickets and requests to the COE. It will get swamped. After all, a lot of their requests may be because they don't really understand BI or understand the data. The business analyst or a power user or a super user or a key user, so on and so forth, can be there to mentor, help, give advice, maybe even create small ad hoc reports. It's up to you. But also hold a relationship with the COE. So it's not 1,000 to 1, it's maybe 50 to 1 or 10 to 1. Other people in relation to the COE, maybe if you have a large BI initiative, you want a project manager, maybe a program manager or program director in there. Or maybe this is your program director up here, where I've got departmental director. Sorry. When we talk about virtual BI COE, what that means is you've got a centralized COE, and you could have a small COE in different regions. So let's say I'm in the US, but I want a department in Saudi Arabia and another one in France. Then I might set up small local virtual COEs that are in close relationship to my central COE. So we maintain the same process, the same governance, the same quality standards. We understand data. I've also got shared IT services over there. Sorry, we went down a bit too fast. We're almost finished. You'll see that there's just a series of things which are suggestions. So what might the COE do? Complex analysis, data extracts, the meaning of data, coaching, mentoring, support. They may maintain a standard encyclopedia for pre-canned reports, so that's typical enterprise reports that have been created. They may work with shared IT on architecture, infrastructure, maintaining a single version of the truth, data modeling, data profiling, data quality, ETL strategy, ETL jobs, the life cycle management, BI solutions. Okay, let's see. You define your framework. You've got that written down now. You know the services that you want to deliver through it. Oh, sorry, just one last thing. Self-service BI. Get the users, see the blue circle? Get the users to help themselves as much as possible. And around all of that, put your defined BI process. We'll get to that in a moment. Around the process, put your governance. So this is all managed carefully. Remember, this framework is in place to help you achieve your BI services, to deliver that information to the business in order to fulfill the objectives of the BI strategy, which came from the corporate strategy, in order to help the organisation become more profitable. So it's critical that this is well managed here and well designed, because you're feeding into the corporate strategy. Okay, so who's in that framework? Who's in that COE? Well, first of all, think about central versus virtual. You need to make a decision about whether you will use headcount, how much headcount you'll use internal, what you might outsource to a third party, maybe offshore, maybe a consultancy. Think about the relationship of the people that are going to work out in the business interfacing. I previously mentioned key users, power users, subject matter experts, and it's typical to have one or more for each functional area within your business. Think about how you want to manage your COE. You're going to have a COE manager in there. Do you want a BI architect who can evaluate every new project from end to end? Look at the risk and make sure everything's in place. We'll recommend how things should be in place for that thing to be successful. How will you gather requirements for the COE? Will you use requirement gathering workshops? For instance, for data warehousing, will you use things like Lawrence Core's BEAM techniques? Or will you use more formal business analysts? Are you going to undertake dimensional and data modeling? Will they sit within IT or within your COE? And semantic layer design. It's very, very important that semantic layers are designed with intelligence and have governance around them. You probably need several analytic developers and ETL developers to load new data sources. Just a quick word on funding. So the people are in place, or you know how to get the people in place. We'll think about how this thing is going to work and run. You could run it as its own cost centre. You may also say that we have numerous business units and they all have budget, so they need to come with a business case and the budget and come to the COE, and we can evaluate the business intelligence requirement and make sure we can achieve that within budget, in which case you'll need to do business case evaluation. Because one thing that I've seen happen is that BI sometimes starts small, and once business users start to find out that other departments are getting data, timely data, fast data, they want in on that action. And then all sorts of things can happen. They come with suggestions for new projects, building catalogues of shared enterprise reports, so on and so forth. This funding model will be very different from organisation to organisation. Just define it and decide how you're going to fund it. Work with finance on that and with the business. Okay, let's have a look at a high-level process for a COE. you'll define your own high-level process. You could use this as an example, or you could start maybe from scratch, I guess. But here, a request comes into the COE in the first box from a departmental business analyst. COE management, or if it's a big request, maybe a departmental director, gets sight of that request and it gets conceptual approval. So in other words, we think it's a good idea. We need to know how much it's going to cost, the impact to the business, and what the value if we do it to the business, and if we have the resources. So a detailed description may be written. If you write the detailed description, you know the scope. The scope can be approved, can be increased, or it can be descaled. Once you know the scope, then you'll know how much it can cost. It can go for a financial approval. Once it's financially approved and money's behind it, go into the build phase. Whatever you are building, test it. We know in reality there's lots of different tests, right? Unit tests, regression testing, system testing, quality testing, integration testing, pressure stress volume testing, and UAT. So I'm not showing all of them here. That build goes to UAT approval. It's very, very important. User acceptance testing. The people that raised the request at the beginning need to sit down and test that the COE has delivered what they said they would and what the requirement was. If I go to a car dealer and request a new black car with alloy wheels, I don't want a red car with steel wheels. That kind of thing happens all too often, where a project goes underground with several developers for too long. The business don't really know what's going on until something pops out the other end months later and it's not what was ordered, or it's not working properly. Make sure you get visibility and transparency throughout your COE and your BI development process. Once you have UAT approval, and this will probably be in the pre-production environment at that point, move it to CAB and take it through into your production environment. Okay, let's look at another example, a bit more detailed. In this process flow example, there are three things going on with the COE. The orange flow is a request for data meaning. We'll talk about it in a moment. The green flow is a request for a minor change. A blue flow is a request for a new initiative or a new project. Data meaning. The business may say, this data is wrong, or there's an error in this data, or we don't understand what this data is saying, because maybe it's a new data source, or maybe there genuinely is a problem and the sales figures don't add up. So what you can do is build a flow diagram. So you say, I've got a request for data meaning. We'll do some data analysis on that. Maybe we'll write a specification for what we're going to do. We'll carry out the analysis. The reason for that specification is it will give you scope and you'll know how much it's going to cost to do it. Sometimes it can be very cheap, sometimes it's not so easy. Maybe you identified a data error, you pass it over to support. Maybe you found an ETL defect, you pass it over to support and test. Or maybe you give feedback to a key user or a power user or a business analyst who's working with the business, saying actually this is what that metric is and that's what it means. Okay, that's a simple one for data meaning. There are many of these that you can do. Minor change. You don't really want requests into a COE for someone to add an extra filter to a report. So in terms of a minor change, you might do something like a pre-approved checklist. You say, as a power user, you have the authority to do this. You don't need to bother to overrun the COE with minor requests. If you define what can and can't be done up front, lots of changes with minimum impact, and that's the key, minimum to no impact, can go through. A new initiative becomes more complicated. In this case, Czech Encyclopedia was suggesting that, this is the blue flow now, there's already a standard encyclopedia. There are 1,000 reports for BI on the system. Are you sure we don't already have this content? No, we don't seem to have the content. Okay. Is it an existing capability? Is it an existing solution that we can scale or enhance? No? Okay. In which case it's a new solution request. Where's your business case? Because we won't take on a piece of work on this scale unless there's a business case and you know the funding's there. Okay. Here's the business case for it. What are the requirements? Not sure? Run your requirements workshops. Now we understand the requirements. What's the risk to the business? There's no risk. Okay. BICC frontline, start working. There is risk to the business, carry out your impact analysis. Risk identified? Yeah. Plan carefully, go to build and test, promote. No unusual risk, significant risk identified, pass it down to the front line. Now I'm not suggesting you use these flows, they're just examples to give you an idea of the type of flows that you can define to use within your BICC framework. There are many more things. Each flow will be closely related to the services that you predefined. Okay, let's look at another example. Role versus maturity stage matrix. This is a different way of looking at your flows. It's very typical for organizations to have a development environment, a test environment, a pre-production environment, and a production environment. So maturity stage just means a request maybe for new analytics, a new data warehouse, so on and so forth, new source data, going through all these environments, maturing until it reaches production. And in this example down the left hand side, we have the different roles, suggestions for roles that may or may not exist according to your requirements within your COE. So there's a COE manager, COE frontline as previously discussed. We've got a power user in here, purchase order approver, developers, CAB, change advisory board, and offshore. In this example, a ticket comes in, the request is validated. It's already done, we can't do that, not enough information, it gets a rejection, asks for a rework. Okay, that's great, we have the information, send it up to the manager to review. It could go back through the cycle again to ask for more information, or the manager may require a technical specification, for instance, sometimes functional and technical specification. Or he may just say go to, or she may say go to build and then to unit test. In this scenario, the build goes into integration testing, and the power user is doing the integration testing. And the reason that there's a suggestion of a power user to do the integration testing here is simply because the power user should have a good understanding of existing solutions and work closely with them. It passes integration testing, goes to pressure, stress, volume testing. Pre-production environment is often overlooked, but it's very important, because a pre-production environment is the first opportunity you'll have after development to seriously test your solution on high volumes of data, certainly in a BI classic data warehousing environment. Once it passes PSV and UAT, it can go into production. There's also a flow that runs down to developers, and the developers may work with offshore. Okay, so there's a few ideas about process. Remember, the processes that you define and map out should be there to fulfill the BI services. And I'll remind you again, the BI services are there operating within your defined COE framework to deliver information to information consumers to allow them to make important business decisions so that the corporate strategy is achieved and fulfilled. You have your process. Let's talk about governance. If you have governance, you won't have a process out of control. If you really want success with BI and with the BI COE, you need the clearly defined process. You need to know what you're doing. You say, we're at A, we're going to go to B, C, and then D. This is how we're going to get there. This is how long it's going to take us. This is how much it's going to cost. This is who's going to do it. And these are the steps we'll take to achieve that. Make your clearly defined processes, and then write your governance around your processes. So, an example. If you want to make a request to a COE, you do it this way. You raise a ticket, or you put a business case together. It should look like this. You can use this template, so on and so forth. If you want to make changes to reports, you can't unless you have an authorization. If you want a certain authorization, this is the governance and how you get that change. If you want a data extract, you can't just go to the system and go in through a back door and extract data. You need to extract in this predefined manner. If you have a process, you can monitor the process to make sure that it doesn't become a process out of control. And remember, if you fail to have a process and your BI system goes out of control, it will lead to inefficiency, can create great stress. People start firefighting. They come under too much pressure. They become demotivated. You're always trying to backfill things and stick elastoplast. Don't do that. Do the critical work and thinking up front, load your projects up front, follow the process through to success. A good example of process is Six Sigma. So if you're a Six Sigma organization, or you understand some Six Sigma processes, you can benefit a lot from Six Sigma. Okay, so what kind of things would we apply governance to, and where would we need them? Now look, here's some examples. There are more, of course. New projects, how are they governed? What's the governance that surrounds new projects? Development, how you move things, data, through that maturity matrix into production. Standard change requests. Can anybody just make changes? Or is there a protocol? Data warehouse change process. Remember, the data warehouse facilitates the concept of the single version of the truth. If you change the data warehouse, you may change the meaning of data. It requires governance. Dimensional bus matrix will allow you to scale your solution. Don't make a patchwork quilt. Semantic layer is simply an abstraction of your data warehouse schemas, so it also requires change process. Okay, here's a few more things to think about that require some thinking, some process, some governance. Analytic change process. Build and test process, we looked at that already. How you build and test and move things through your environment. Build and test will apply also to ETL. ETL build, ETL changes. Security model. It's very unusual for any organisation to have an open security model, especially with mobile devices, iPads, Blackberries, so on and so forth. You can pick up data from your BI system, so it's very important that you have clear security around that, obviously. You can have BI auditing switched on. Think about BI administration, maybe things like cache cleanup, administrating users, administrating content, and probably governance around KPIs and service level agreements. Okay, we're coming to the end of this presentation. A quick look at tools and artifacts that you might develop, write, design. So in the past I've come up with often 20, even up to 45 documents and tools that you could use, defining your process, test scripts, governance and data ownership, and so on and so forth. Okay, so list those documents out. They can go into change requests and they can be shared and communicated with the business. Now also, as I said earlier, your BI Centre of Excellent Communications, critically important. I've seen this done very well and be very successful. I've seen this kind of thing being done very poorly or not at all, and leading to confusion. It's a good idea to create an internal marketing plan. Okay, we have BI, we have data, we have a single version of the truth, we have a centre of excellence, we have all these services, we're doing these things. How do we market this to the rest of the business? Because you should be going out there anyway, understanding the needs and wants of the business, their requirements, and then meeting those needs and wants in line with the corporate plan. You make your internal marketing plan, you can create a communication plan. How are you going to do that? Via intranet site, via emails, via printed cards, via workshops, series of workshops. One organisation, or maybe two organisations that I work with, put all their users, hundreds of users, through workshops, about 20 to 30 people at a time, over several days. You do all this to get user adoption to the system, because if people get oriented, or get their orientation, they'll adopt the system, they'll start using the system, see its benefits. Okay, they then become culture carriers, so they spread the word about this BI, about data, about Centre of Excellence, about what is being achieved to the rest of the organisation. And of course, within your communication, offer mentoring, provide education. Also with several organisations, unless you go through BI training as a user, you won't get a log on. I've been involved many times in running workshops or business intelligence training sessions, and they're full of people, and the reason they're full is, if you want to log on to the BI system and use the data, you do the training first. And the reason for that is to make sure people are aware of how to log on, how to use the data, what the data means, how to use the tools. And also the support process, communicate that. If there's a problem with the data or the BI system, or with analytics, you need to know, business users need to know how to get their problems resolved, and fast. Finally, just a quick word on offshore development. Why is it used? It can be cost effective. Offshore companies can often provide you on demand with quick ramp up and ramp down, and what that means is I've got a development project, I've got 10 people in my COE, they're all busy, I can't spare them, we have the functional and technical specifications, so what we can do is use this offshore partner, and they can ramp up quickly to have 20 developers and then when the project's finished they'll ramp it down again. It can be very, very useful to have offshore organisations, and I've worked with many offshore organisations now. Just make sure, if you're using offshore, that it's very well management is the key. A good offshore manager is extremely valuable. And of course, offshore releases the core COE team to focus on the core activities or carrying on in parallel development. And we've come to the end of this presentation. Things that I've learned over many years, rather than keep them in the dark and dusty secret recesses of BI architects and management consultants, I've attempted to share a few ideas and principles with you. I hope it's been of some value and some use, and you've got some ideas